So championship week is here. Maybe my favorite pod to do with one of my favorite guests for the second year for, I hope, for the next 20, Stanford Steve. Almanac of information and just a regular great guy. We kind of vibe well, even though he'll probably say the River of Blue text gets to be too much. But I do try to help you with some things that matter, late night clips and stuff. I try to help you out, so it's not all just ranting and raving. It's toned down, and there's breaks in between, but it is a River of Blue, correct?
Yeah, it's just, your hiatuses are varying in time frame, and when I don't hear from you, I gotta check in, and then obviously there's the ball busting text, but we have fun with each other.
Exactly.
But I gotta check. The hair looks nice and tight. I don't. What we got? We're going long up top, tight on the sides.
A little bit,
March,
yeah.
March cut.
Thank you to my wife. Yeah, it makes you look. I've lost a couple of pounds. I know you were very, very hard on that. You pointed out when I gained a few. So
I said you got to keep it tight on the sides. That always helps you with
it's
perspective.
Good. It's good. I can't go the full
zero.
zero.
As I could talk with nothing on top.
No, shaved, but you can. You like Shaka Smart. All right, so let's dive into it. Your big thing has always been teams who can win a title.
Yes.
I think you have a lot more than I do. I just wrote down about 15. How many do you have for that record?
Now I'm down to 23. I eliminated 3 this past week. Tennessee was on the list. Brutal injury. Talked on SV Pod last night with Scott. How devastating this year has been for fans in Knoxville. Hendon Hooker goes down to end the college football season. ZZ goes down for the Vols. I still understand why people don't like Rick Barnes and now elect success. I just look at the team. I love what the team is about. I thought they had a chance. They do a great job of making you play their style. But without Ziegler, he's the difference maker. We know they struggle to score. He's the guy that, late in shot clocks was the guy. Without him, I think it's going to be really tough. They're off. Providence. I'm going to see these people 2:30 at the Garden Thursday. That Metro North ride for 2:30. I can't ever remember UConn playing in the 2:30 slate, let alone beat Providence, knowing how well they travel. So I am fired up to be in the Garden Thursday. But Providence, since I put them on the list, I want to say, end of the first week of February. I don't know if they won a game. And they looked good last night. Almost, blew a lead, didn't cover. I got St. Mary's off the list. I just don't think matchup-wise they are going to be in favor of a matchup, let alone 6 times, 4 times. We know what they're made of. They do a great job to play under their skill set, but I just think athleticism, these Big 12 teams, where are they seated? SEC teams. Big 10 does a great job of making you play their style. I'm worried that they would run the table winning 6, but hey, if there's a team that could do it and pull it off, more power to you, but I don't have them on the list, so that leaves me with 5 in the Big 12, 4 in the Big East, 3 in the SEC, 3 in the Big 10, 2 in the ACC, 2 in the Big Pac-12, 1 in the WCC, 1 in the American, 1 in the Mountain West.
Makes sense. So if there was, let's do this exercise. I like this. There was a competition of everybody in the country. We're going to line you all up. And you have to pick the winner of the NCAA tournament, but there's a prize for the highest odds that you go. So everybody who picks Kansas at 5-1, 6-1, if somebody picks 10-1, you lose out. There's a prize on how high you can get. What's the highest you would go, or a team you think that's sliding under the radar for you to try and win that competition?
I don't know where they are right now. If you have them, go ahead. But 2 weeks ago, I bet UCLA at 14-1.
Okay.
They obviously the Clark injury news is huge. I would guess they're not going to have him for the Pac-12. I don't know anything about him, but when you look at versatility within a roster and trust factor and experience and a coach that's done it, I think they might be. If we did a snake draft with me, you, and whoever's in the room, if I had the first pick, I think I'm taking UCLA.
Does the non-conference scare you a little bit, and the microscope of the Pac-12? Like, they're going to be a 2-bid league. We'll get to that. They could be a 3-bid league, but
no, SC's getting in. They'll get in.
Okay, but they're like they lost to Illinois and Baylor early in the season. Doesn't really have a great I think we should just look at UCLA with a little bit more of a microscope. And now the injury, right? That kid, is it Carter? Carter went down.
Yeah, that was so early in the year. Like Illinois, Shannon that night, I watched that game in Vegas. Illinois would have beat anybody in the country that night. And when you think about Baylor, I think Baylor's a team that's way high on the list. They might be up there as far as odds. But I get what you're saying with UCLA. They haven't been tested. The Pac-12 is down. But I still think figuring out that roster, Mick does a great job. It does take a whole season with him and his style. So that's why I'm not grading them too hard on the out-of-conference. I like they got that experience. I think they got a bad taste in their mouth right from the start. Jaime's been unbelievable. Tyson's a guy that's going to take care of the basketball. But to go back to your first question, lowest odds to win it all that I would throw on TCU. I think TCU has the makings of one of the. I think all the Big 12 teams are dying to get out of the bracket in conference play. And I mean, look at Thursday's schedule for that league tournament. Every team in that's playing Thursday could be in the Sweet 16.
100%.
So TCU, look at what they got a taste of last year, being that close against Arizona. Miles, 100%, big man ready to go. They're really versatile defensively, and Miles is a guy that can get a bucket when you need it. I would take a shot with TCU. I think they have Final Four possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked Dixon. You know, he coached some of my high school teammates at Pitt. He was the New York guy. He had all those kids ready to go. It felt like he knocked on the door a lot at Pitt. Took him a little while to get back at TCU. So guys like that breaking through. That's a perfect lead-in to this thing, right? So we'll do big deal, little deal, kind of speed through this. Big deal, little deal. Coaching experience throughout the country of not a lot of guys in high seeds ever getting to the second weekend. I love Oates. 1 second weekend. Hurley, none. Jerome Tang, first season. Tommy Lloyd, couple of years. Like, that's the element. Like, a guy can't have 7 second weekends if he's only been there 2 years. I'm not knocking Lloyd, but that's the fact. We used to have these guys that were like, they came with the lines on the floor. I felt like they were there for so long. Now it's guy like that. That's gone. You know, we got a lot of new guys busting through. Got a lot of guys like with inexperience. Is this a big deal of guys, you know, letting the pressure get to them, or hey, we could have a first tournament appearance guy cutting down the nets?
I think we could. I just think it's the way the game has gone. I think experience in the tournament is more for the players. I'm not a guy that's going to sit here and crush coaches. I think there's plenty on their plate. We know the 40 minutes gets lined up. We sit there every session once March Madness comes, and I think you get that's why I love this week even more. You get a sense of how fast these games go. You know when the TV timeouts are. You know what a run looks like. You know when you have to get out of one. You know what substitutions look like, foul trouble. You know your roster, and now you have to be in it. Good starts are huge. We know comebacks are part of the sport. But I think it comes down to more of these players and with the youth. And that's why I have so many teams on my list of national championship, because the word that comes up to me this whole year is capable. I think there's more teams that are capable, whether it's through the portal, whether it's guys staying through a COVID year, whether it's outstanding freshmen being in great situations and taking time and looking at where they're going to go to school, knowing how other teams' rosters played out. I think there's a lot more factors there. So I put more on, hey, these players are making more than the coaches now.
Yes.
They gotta get some criticism. So I'm not sitting here that, I would like more experience. I think I saw I think it's the last 27 title winners. The one outlier that didn't have a coach experience that you mentioned, field goal percentage on offense and defense, was that 2014 UConn team. That
was just a bizarre year.
They defied all odds with Ali at the helm, and having no experience, not being great in the analytics department. But other than that, it's kind of, you need a guy that's been there. But I look at, you brought up Hurley. I look at that roster. I love what they bring.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. I'm just saying, like another second round. You saw it last year, or they lost in the first round, but second round the next year, it's like, I got to get there, Yeah. Even a guy like McCaffrey, who's been around a long time, like no second weekends. I love Fran, but you could just see that pressure getting a guy. So I agree with you. Players is a
lot of these guys that you love haven't had a lot of experience in the Sweet 16. You got a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I know. My other guy,
keep that phone charged.
Yeah, my other guy's gonna have to play in the suites in the NIT too, Grasso.
Oh.
So we'll see how that goes. They lost the other day.
How many of your Bryant chips did you have to cash in to get that Alabama chip?
What do you mean?
Feels like you're off Bryant, and
well, they're having a tough year. They're having a tough year. I got a lot of friends. I watch Iowa all the time.
I know they move conferences. I just was wondering what the cash exchange rate was for you to move up to the SEC.
It was an upgrade. It was like, you know how you go in, you think you're going to trade in the lease, and you're like, hey, I want to stay in the same payments. The car payment's a little bit more down in Tuscaloosa.
Well, I was going to say, I think you had to take you and the wife's car payment to get one.
to get one car.
One.
Yeah, that's how it goes. So that's perfect. Again, another segue. Big deal, little deal. Alabama slipping. Not playing great over the last 4 games. Is it just the ball's not going in the hoop? We know they shoot a ton of threes.
No, I mean, I think we know that it's gotten a little tight, right? I mean, they are in uncharted waters with the way you look at what has happened, what's transpired off the court, what's transpired on the court, and the unknown of this group of guys not going into a tournament situation and it being the first time. You know, I'm not going to make a big deal of it, but I did think A&M showed a little vulnerability of Bama. They made them look uncomfortable. You haven't made them look uncomfortable. Not a lot of teams have been able to do that. Auburn, I thought, did a good job. Auburn just doesn't have the wherewithal to do it. A&M's got great guards. And that 3-quarter mix and match zone, I mean, before you know it's the second half, and what Alabama had? Lowest half of the year, right? 22 points in the first half.
Not great, no.
That's not, you know, I look at road games and how teams them, but in its totality, no one's good on the road this year. Nobody. But I think that goes with the idea of these groups of teams going on the road for the first time in these environments and not knowing each other. Whereas, you know, back in 10 years ago, you had more experience where you had trust in your guys. So it was eye-opening, but like Alabama has everything you want as far as talent goes. Now, will that transfer in a pressure situation? You know, the day after the press conference, you know, why South Carolina never blitzed Brandon Miller once and let him score 41, I'll never know. Maybe change it up once. You know who's going to have the ball in those situations. But, hey, that's a credit for Bama saying they're not doing this. Give the ball to our best guy and let him do his thing. So they are the outlier to me because if they play well, nobody's beating them.
Right.
You know,
but they haven't been playing great.
Like
so.
You talk about that Sweet 16, that round of 32, those guys have felt the pressure because those teams are more capable defensively and have let the guys shoot that defense wants to shoot, and they haven't been able to win when they haven't played well. You have to do that once, maybe even twice, if you're going to want to cut the nuts down 2 times in the regional and at the Final Four. So that's where I look at. Alabama's the outlier because of the inexperience of the roster going in this type of situation.
I talked to Kansas guys. I've been on a Kansas podcast a couple of times. They're worried about the center, that they have no, like, 6'7" center. Is that a big deal or a little deal? Because I still think Kansas is great. I'm holding them at 15. I think that's a great price. But do you worry about somebody going in there and just dominating the paint? I know it's an outside-in game now, but you worry about somebody just exposing Kansas inside?
No, I'm more worried about the outside shooting.
Okay.
You know, they've been able. I don't think Dick didn't play well the other night on the road. They lost. I think it's 2 games in a row. They've been at some weird games at home too.
Yes.
Where they've been a lot closer. But I'll take Bill Self over anybody when it comes to game situation. Look at what he does out of timeouts. Look at what he does in situations. He always gets the ball to the guy that you want the ball, whether it's Wilson, whether it's Dick on that night. And the point guard is just phenomenal. He's unselfish. He makes big shots when he has to. So I feel like they deserve the benefit of the doubt because of what they've done and what Bill Self has done. But you know they're a team perfect example. If they don't play well, are they going to be able to win? I trust that they will because they're that good versatility defensively. Like you mentioned, the lack of size, that helps them, though, in switches when it's 1-5 or when it's a 1-4 switch that where you get a high ball screen or something like that. So I trust Kansas. I'm really interested to see, are they going to get – if Michigan gets in, are they going to be the 8 lined up opposite? Yeah, are they going to have to deal with Dickinson? Teams with bigs. Who else is going to be? Arizona's got 2. Are they going to be in the bottom of Kansas's bracket? Would that be an Elite 8, which would be phenomenal? So Kansas, I think, deserves all the credit. Think about what the season they had after a national title. You don't see that a lot with a lot of guys, and you mentioned the presence. Kansas always has a big that's active. Now this guy's just a little undersized. That's all.
Yeah, so the last one, I'll give you a stat on this one. Xavier losing Freemantle. See if you can wrap your head around this. With him, 4th best offense in the country, 112th defensive efficiency. Without him, 12th best offense, 52nd best defense. I don't know if it matters. For whatever reason, they're giving up less points per possession when he's not on the floor defensively. I like Xavier, and we talked about this all the time too. Not a lot of guys with 3 Elite 8s on their resume. And it's been a business where if you keep knocking on the door at VIP, eventually you're like, all right, tuck your shirt in, you're coming in. We saw that with Tony Bennett. We saw it with Scott Drew.
Mm-hmm.
Is Sean Miller maybe the next guy?
Here's what I'll say about Xavier. They have learned to play without him. That's huge. I think they put it out there where he thought they could back. I don't think the team believed that he was coming back. So I think they got this mindset like, hey, he's gone. We got to go about this. What are we going to do? We're going to go out and score 75 a game. That's what we're going to do, and we'll figure it out defensively. I think the world of Sean Miller as a coach. I mean, those Wisconsin years where he had Arizona going against Wisconsin. Yeah. I mean, it was just a brutal. I can't believe they did that in the bracket 2 straight years. But regardless, it's past them. I do like Xavier. I'm really interested to see what they bring to the table as a not traditional Big East team in this tournament. Because you got all the lights. They'll be in the night session, right?
And Boom is a big-time play. I could see him being a second weekend feature of where's this kid? He gets the CBS minute. There's a lot of guys like that for sure.
They are an X factor in all this because I think they're another one. Matchup-wise, we know they could score, but do they get matched up with an SEC team that can match them, if not be better than them athletically and give them trouble, scoring the ball? Because defense, I don't think they're going to slow a lot of teams, but they, like I said, they know what they are, and they've had a chance to play without their big guy, and I think they found themselves, and they know their roles. It's just a matter of, putting the ball in the basket more than the other team because that's their strength.
Yep.
And can you play to your strengths in the tournament, or is the other team going to be able to take you out of it? That's why the matchups are so big to me.
100%. Yeah, it's pointless to try to break it all down now, but that's what we get out of this week. So, all right, real quick, and then we'll dump into the conferences. Mid-majors you think can win a game? So right now I went off the bracket matrix. Florida Atlantic on the 9 line, Boise on the 10, Utah State, Nevada, College of Charleston, Oral, VCU, Drake. You got the guys in the MAC, Utah Valley. Is there somebody deeper? I think we're both going to say the toothbrushes, the fighting toothbrushes out of Colgate they give everything to Wisconsin. But in those 8, 9, 10s or who do you really love here that's jumped out to you? Because I know you watch a lot of it like I do, the mid-majors and stuff. Who's the team everybody's doesn't know about yet, but you're like, that's worth the ticket to the Sweet 16?
Sweet 16's a tough one.
Well, at least win a game. Win a game for sure.
Colgate's all about a matchup.
They're lined in the 15 line, though? Colgate's on the 15 line?
Yeah, that's BS. You should. That's the one thing I hate about the committee, and I worry, and Scott and I talked about it again last night. I am so upset at how they've handled conference tournament week because they haven't rewarded anybody for success in conference tournaments. And, we still, Lenardi still got his last 4 in, first 4 out, whatever, next 4, the whole thing. And it feels like those teams are going against each other, but they're not. They're not really, because it feels like the committee already has the field set.
Yeah.
And you got to win a conference tournament to get in. Like A&M last year goes to the SEC final, not rewarded. So when you look at the mid-majors, Colgate, was it 3 or 4 years, 4 out of 4 years? That deserves to be a 13 seed, in my opinion. If you're able to go to the tournament back-to-back years,
right,
or 3 out of 4, you have that same crux of guys. They have adapted their roster. They got more size where they got eaten up against Arkansas a couple years ago. So I look at them as the matchup. They could shoot it, but are they going to face, a more athletic, backcourt? For sure, most likely. And then I look at a team which I feel changed up how they went about things, and that's Vermont. Vermont went out west early this year and got their brains beat in by Pac-12 schools, Mountain West. They didn't. It didn't look. They were under 500, I think, for the first time in a while, and then maybe ran off as impressive as a conference title as he's won there. And I just want him to get in because I think Vermont is a team that we've seen, but again, they go into the tournament. When they had Lamb, they got to play Florida State in Hartford, and just it's a brutal matchup.
And then Arkansas the next year, right?
Yeah, can a Colgate and can a Vermont get lined up with a Big Ten team? Can Charleston get lined up with a Big Ten team where you can use your athleticism against a team that's going to struggle to score? That's what it's about to me. So to me, and that's why I hate, I love talking about all this, but to me, I need to see the bracket. Yep. The bracket is the matchups, but Vermont, San Diego State's the team I have that I think that could win a national title from the Mountain West. I love what they
I like them in Maui, yeah. They're definitely good.
Yeah, Bradley has been in college forever. Cal hasn't been the same since he left. So he's a guy that could shoot it and is on the cusp of being a name people know if they can make it to the second weekend. So they got some grown men on that team. They defend really well. So I know that's not, I don't count them as a mid-major, but they're the one team I have from the Mountain West where I think is highly. I'm not really that high on the other Mountain West teams. I'm not sure about Nevada. I don't like Utah State out of their building. New Mexico was great to start the year. They look hobbled. House
I don't know what's
was limping around the other night, but I like New Mexico's price in that Mountain West tournament.
All right. And then, so the one thing I will say on those matchups, if you can dictate the pace, I'll never forget that Marshall team a couple years ago went against Wichita State. Marshall is up and down, no defense. Wichita wanted to slow it down. Vastly different tempos. You can get upsets in vastly different tempos of who can dictate the matchup there, whether you want to slow it down or speed it up. That's worth looking at in the first week. So we'll go through the conferences.
But with that, a Colgate, a Vermont, a Yale, they got to make shots.
Oh, 100%.
Because, like if you got no chance of controlling tempo
if
you're not making shots.
Absolutely.
Because you're up against it on the defensive end.
Absolutely. So, all right, so the Big 12, I call it the Bill Self Invitational. I mean, it's my favorite thing to do. I think it's a little bit less this year where, the line is 2. The line last year in the semis was 4, 2, whatever it was, and I was like, give it to me. All he has to do is basically win the game, hit the free throws at the end, I'm good. He's unbelievable in this tournament. They're at 225. Texas at 300, TCU at 6, Kansas State at 8, Baylor at 350, Iowa State's all over the place at 12, and then you got West Virginia, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State down in the 17 to 32 to 75 range. Which way are you going in the Big 12? A sleeper, so you could we'll go chalk or sleeper, which way do you want to do with it, realistically?
Yeah, it's tough because I think about West Virginia every year in this tournament, and they've had some really good teams. They're the outlier. They're Creighton coming to New York City for the Big East tournament. They got no chance as far as crowd, and they travel as well as anyone. But that Kansas City building is always going to be Kansas or Iowa State. They always are up against a bigger school. So I look at, they got to win the extra game now. I see around 15-1 on them. I
17,
see a 16.
Yeah, it's moving around.
That's the underdog. I would lay there. I look at the winner of TCU Kansas State. They're going to play, and I think in that 9:00 game Thursday night.
No, 10:15.
Yeah. Central time they buy an hour too. So, but we know where they are on the channel guide for sure. I look at the winner of that game being on the bottom and coming out of that. So I lean TCU. Like I said, I'm in on them because of Miles. I don't think there's many like him at his position. Maybe Sasser is along the lines for Houston. Of Miles, where could create off the dribble, great shooter, has a great surrounding around him, not afraid to give up the ball to get an open look to a teammate. So I would take a shot with TCU. Though my 5 teams to win the national title are pretty obvious from the Big 12: Texas, Kansas, Baylor, Kansas State, TCU. So I look at the team, they win that first one, bottom of the bracket, automatic semis, and I like the idea. TCU early in the year, healthy before Miles got hurt, went up to Lawrence and gave it to Kansas. And there was something in that matchup because, TCU's got two bigs. You talk about Kansas' lack of bigs. They exploited that. It helped that they made outside shots. It opens everything up. And that's the thing. Spacing, they do a great job. If you have it outside, multiple guys that can make it, and you get bigs in there, you could do whatever you want now with the hand-checking rules and all that stuff. So TCU is still a team I have my eye on. The price is right. They, didn't look great in their last game, getting blasted by Oklahoma. So, I look at the winner of that Kansas State TCU game.
Yeah, Noel, I talked to him, Tang, and Keontae early in the year, and, really phenomenal. He's Noel from the Bronx. He's just destined. He gives me Pullen. He gives me Pullen vibes. He's just going to hit a big shot. They're very fun to watch. ACC, I don't think this conference is as great as people think.
It's not. Don't think.
And I don't love Duke. I know they're playing well, but I
don't either.
Yeah, I really don't. I don't like their freshmen. Something about underachieving. The one I'm going to go with, it's tougher because they got to win a little bit of a game. I'm really just going sleeper here. NC State 16-1. So when Clemson, I know Clemson pounded them a couple of weeks ago and beat them early in the year too. So they're 0-2. But the old, hey, it's tough to beat a team 3 times. I like Burns. He's a big boy. Clemson shot 52% from 3 a couple of weeks ago in that game. I think NC State at 16-1 would be my only play in this one. Are you going? Is this a stay away? What do you like? If people were who do you think is the most likely winner, and where's the value, real quick, in the ACC? I think it's the least compelling tournament, by the way.
Oh, see, I think it's fascinating because anybody could win it. I honestly believe that. Oh God, if I do have 100-1 on Syracuse, I know they got to start tomorrow.
Miami plays no defense. I don't hate that.
We talked about in the inexperience in these rosters, that zone in a one and done. I mean, look how many times they have snuck in the NCAA tournament and done well. It's the only reason I feel like that fan base is hanging on by a thread, because they still think back in the back of their minds they've seen it happen before. And I like the idea of Mintz, handling the ball now, and Gerard Chief's able to be a shooter. They could cause some problems with the zone. They do a great job of rebounding. They got size now, which what you want in the bottom of that zone. So I look at Syracuse as the ultimate flyer. Obviously, 100-1, you got to win that extra game. So when I watch Miami Pitt, I think Pitt's one of the best stories of the season.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Hinson is a guy that is not afraid at all. You see him make buckets from anywhere.
They were going to fire Capel. They were going to fire Capel.
Yeah. So the bracket, the way it lines up, I don't want NC State. I get it. It's a good story. But when I look at the bracket, Syracuse, Wake Forest is a team that could shoot it. I mean, they could get hot. What I would do is take the winner of Syracuse-Wake Forest against Miami.
Okay.
I think that's worth a chance, even though I think Miami is worthy of winning a national title because of their explosiveness. But, that top of the bracket, I'm looking for somebody in the bottom. NC State might be the call. They're not going to be afraid of anybody.
No. That's
for sure. But Clemson is a team I feel like that gets not a lot of credit. And, yeah, they've done a good job of winning games at home. Good teams do that. But I think they could score. I look at them as opposed to these 12, 13 teams in the Big Ten that are going to get in. Clemson's a definite tournament team, in my opinion.
But you know what I don't love about them?
Score.
They used to be top 25, and now they're on the verge of last 4 buys. I don't love that in the story of the season, but I get what you're saying. They definitely got guys who can play.
Yeah, I don't know. Virginia just does. I don't want to see them, and when the bracket comes out in my bracket. But I don't think people fear them as they did in years past. So, NC State with the price might be the team on the bottom of that bracket. The top of that bracket is tough. But I mean, Pitt as a half game away from winning the conference and being 16?
12. I got them at 12-1.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Pitt. I want to see. You talk about a team that doesn't have any experience. I mean, they no matter where you look, they don't have anything. So they could be the wild card in this. But my ultimate flyer is on Syracuse at 100-1.
Yeah, the Big Ten. So again, this is another one that's wide open. I'm just kind of chasing plus signs. I go with Iowa at 11 because I don't love Michigan State. I know Iowa doesn't play any defense.
We know why you're going Iowa.
No, well, listen, it's very tough to repeat, but I don't love Michigan State. Ohio State and Wisconsin winner doesn't really scare me. I could see Iowa getting to that semi against Purdue. And another one, I'll give Illinois at like 18-1 because I like Northwestern. I really do think Northwestern is good, but Illinois, Northwestern's not the scariest team. Illinois can make a dash there. I don't love – it always seems like this tournament falls apart too. I'm just rolling the dice with those two. I have no real rhyme or reason on the Big Ten.
I haven't seen Illinois put 40 minutes together since that UCLA game in Vegas.
Or at the Garden, they put together 50 when they beat Texas.
Yeah. Northwestern is great because they're not what you think. Audige,
yeah.
I mean, he's might be the most athletic player in the conference. So when you look at Northwestern moving forward, it's not like, oh, you got good guards, you could get any shot. They play great defense, and that's because of athleticism in the backcourt. So when you look at that composed with the bracket, I still think Michigan State is as scary as there is. Hauser's been phenomenal. Scott says all the time, every time he shoots, it looks like it's going in. They got toughness at the guard. They're going to do a good job of, making everything tough. They're going to out-rebound you. But I look at them. But as the Flyer, I still watch Michigan, and I think their best is as good as anybody in the country. I really do. With the guard play, I thought they really put out – I think it's 3 straight overtime games they've lost.
Yes.
When you go back, Indiana, Illinois, and then that Wisconsin game that they won. So Michigan, I think, where we got at Michigan?
18. Yeah.
18. That's my Flyer there. If I want to go somebody that's starting play on Thursday, Michigan State, and Maryland is the most Jekyll and Hyde team. I like how they're on the bottom of that bracket. They get the winner of what?
Indiana.
Nebraska.
Minnesota, Nebraska, yeah. And then Indiana.
Indiana, I worry about the toughness. I really do. In a tournament atmosphere, how much are they going to grind things out? And I think, again, in that conference, nobody's afraid of anybody, but I feel like teams could feel like they could take it to Indiana and out-tough them. So the bottom of that thing, I think Maryland is definitely a wild card to come out of that and make it to the final. Can they win it? I don't know, but I wouldn't touch Purdue. The price is not there, and the freshman guards is starting to get exposed there. So I look at Michigan State and Michigan. If you get them playing and then you get an automatic into the final, that could be a good money swing for you there. So those are the 2 teams I have there. I do look at Maryland on the bottom of that one.
Let's do this one so we don't run out of time, because I think this one is the most compelling. The Big East. You'll be in the building, as you said.
Yeah.
It's the best. This used to be lottery tickets. Fucking lottery ticket. My dad getting it, it was like a lottery ticket, and then in high school, you just skipping class or heading home on the bus. Like, it's just the best. The Garden, and knowing those kids in that conference and playing against them for a period of time, like, it was the best. I tell the story. Well, there's a ton of stories to tell growing up and stuff, but when Pitt, I was on the phone with my buddy, and I'm like, it's going to be Pitt, UConn for round 3. We're going. Like, we got to go. Save up, crack the piggy bank. We're going. Pitt lays an egg to West Virginia. I go to the bar. He's like, all right, yeah, well, it's off. You think Syracuse UConn is like an afterthought? It turns into 6 overtimes. Like, that's the fucking tournament. It's the best. The Big East is the best. You got Marquette at the 1, 350. UConn, 230. Providence, 1,200 in the 4-5. Xavier at 550. Creighton at 300. And Nova at 550. The rest of them, I'm crossing off. St. John's, Butler, Seton Hall, DePaul, Georgetown, no thanks. I think this is it's been a top-heavy league. It's got to be one of the top-heavy. This might be the toughest semifinals, toughest quarterfinals out there compared to the Big 12. Like, this is awesome. An awesome matchup of teams. I would probably lean Creighton at 3-1. I think they can bring it a little bit defensively. I like Shireman. They got guys who can shoot. I like Xavier as well. I think that 2-3 is like just awesome. It's a top 10 matchup, top 15 matchup. It's very hard. Which way you going with the Big East?
I don't like the idea of those teams being outsiders coming to the Garden. I look at I think Villanova's going to get a ton of money.
But what about if they're both outsiders playing in the semi? Like, it's not really. So, I guess you're right. No, you know what? Nova, yeah. I forgot it's Nova. If they could get through Nova, you're right. I just contradicted myself.
That is, and Nova just gave it to Creighton.
Yes.
So I still wonder about Nova's outside shooting. I think they will dictate, I feel, against Creighton. I do feel like that. I look at the top. Providence, is going to have an effort ready. Is it enough? And can they score enough to beat UConn? I don't think so. And at the top, Marquette, Kolek, that story.
He's awesome. I interviewed that kid, dude. Awesome. His dad's a huge influence on him. Leads the Big East.
Does he have a good Rhode Island accent?
Not really. I don't think so.
See, going to Rhode Island kid going to George Mason,
not really.
Then out to Marquette. I figured he might have lost it.
No, actually, you know what? I went to college up there. Nothing. No Massachusetts. Okay. He's not. Yeah, I think it got lost along the travels.
Yeah. I'm just hoping St. John's wins Wednesday. We get Marquette St. John's at noon, and then you get UConn Providence to start the day. You can't ask for anything better. And then Villanova obviously gets Georgetown Wednesday night. And then it's just I say Creighton, Xavier. I've seen. Years ago, Xavier was the one when Willard had Seton Hall cranked up, and they had no business and no want to being in the Garden in that night session against a Seton Hall team. So Seton Hall is a team.
Let me tell you something. I went Friday night a couple of weeks ago. My buddy and my brother. 12-minute mark. They were talking fantasy baseball, and the game was a background. Xavier pumped them early. And I know Seton Hall's got a little bit of a home advantage here, and Holloway can run some crazy shit. Xavier's way more talented. You're right. It would completely shock me, and I get how that makes sense. Xavier at 550 to me almost seems like a walk to the semis. Seton Hall doesn't scare me at all. They just can't score. They just can't score.
It's the idea of the Garden, though, especially that night session when everybody's gotten primed up. And you got, say,
Johnny
Villanova,
Fanta courtside.
You got Villanova, Creighton. Everybody's rooting for Seton Hall.
Yeah.
The whole building. And that's what's great about the Garden. No matter who the underdog is, and, you'll get, in a scenario, UConn fans, they'll be cheering for St. John's, no doubt. And that's what's fun about the Big East Tournament. And that place will be jazzed up. I'd love to see Xavier and Creighton in that semis. I just don't know if they're both going to get there. I think it's going to be a lot tougher than it seems. But UConn the favorite. I'm not taking any favorites in these conference tournaments. I'll just tell you that. So Nova, I worry about the price. I feel like they're going to get, and they got to win the extra game, obviously. But you don't. You only have to play UConn or Marquette in the final. So they're not going to be scared of anybody for sure. I look at how Providence has fallen off. UConn, I think, is back up on the uptick and playing well. They're as deep as anybody. You got UConn Marquette to start Friday night. That's sensational.
That's unbelievable.
So I looked at who did I take? I took a flyer on Villanova, and who was my
St. John's? Did you play St. John's at 40-1?
No, I took Seton Hall at 35-1.
Okay, I like that too. Makes sense.
That was the ultimate flyer. So rooting for the dogs in the
St. John's is just never. It's just never going to be. I don't think anybody's going to win there. I know they're talking about St. Rick coming back. It's just the facilities. They play 4 games at the Garden. How could you go out? Look at Rolls Atkins is a name. Kid from Christ the King, top 50 recruit, top 25 recruit, whatever he was. In the papers, it's no, it's a 50-50 split here. Arizona or St. John's. I'm like, no fucking way. There's just no way.
Not
no
if he's
chance.
Already been on a plane to Arizona.
It's just
I'll tell you that.
You can't sell kids on playing in the Garden. And the league is as high as it is right now. I'm trying to sell you on coming back. They got kids going to UNC, Syracuse. Boogie Fland is uncommitted. He's unbelievable. Really good kids.
We just got to get them off the one for fun. That's
exactly.
That's to me what's sad about the Big East is no longer where it should be on ESPN. So that's another conversation for another day.
Fair enough. That was the best. The 3 of them, Raftery, Shulman, and Billis was unbelievable. SEC,
McDonough too.
McDonough too. Yeah, I really got nothing. I mix those two up all the time. It was McDonough, right?
Yeah.
I mix him and Shulman up. But Shulman was on, too, on the Big East. No?
Towards the end. But
towards the end, yeah.
In the great days, McDonough and Raff would be out as late as anybody.
I got to meet Raff 3. That's a whole other story. The SEC, listen, I'm rooting for Bama. It would make sense.
Are you?
Yeah.
Are you? Hold on. Let's clear this. Are you rooting for Alabama or are you rooting for Nate Oates?
Well, he coaches Alabama, so I'm rooting for. Listen, when there was rumors, he was going. When there was rumors, he was changing red to blue, and that's not a political stance. When he was looking at potentially changing up the colors when Coach Cal was on his way out, I was like, man, I don't know. I'm gonna have to hard look in the mirror, rooting for Kentucky, but that's what it is. So yeah, I mean, I'm rooting. It's the chicken and the egg. What do you want me to say? It's the chicken and the egg. But yeah, I'm an Oates guy.
You're rooting for the coach.
I'm an Oates guy. He's best coach.
Right.
Yeah, he's the
You're
best
rooting
coach.
for the coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really got nothing here. Tennessee without their best player, 275. A&M with Buzz obviously causing some problems, 525. Is it Kentucky at 4? Like that price is going to drop. I haven't checked the updated odds. Missouri at 45. Mississippi State at 40-1. Auburn at 20-1. The one, it's crazy to me. Vandy at 80. Could you see Vandy giving Kentucky problems, and then you're holding that ticket into the semis? I don't
I got
nothing here. Nothing.
I'm not an Auburn guy. I'm not. I don't even have them in my bracket, but they're probably going to get in. It's been a disaster in Fayetteville this year. When
injuries, injuries for sure.
What happened with the guys that were hurt? The Brazil injury to start the season was just brutal because I thought he was the guy that kept everything together. So I'm on a last stand here with Arkansas. I still think, Musselman.
10-1.
He's not just the way he could bring everything together. He's like the Iron Chef of coaches. No matter what he has on the roster, he throws it in there, and then he has a product that could play well in these circumstances. He'll mix and match. He'll game, out coaching in games. Finding matchups, changing up defenses. He's great at that stuff. So you got to win the extra game, obviously, to get to the quarters. But I think that the price wise, that's who I would take a shot on with Arkansas. I don't. Mississippi State, I don't have them in the tournament.
Nope.
Florida without Castleton, I still love the way they're playing. They could be dangerous, moving forward. Tennessee, struggle. Missouri, great story. But now is where you really want to see you take your next step. If they can, good for them. But, Kentucky,
yeah. It's a tough one. Just pass. It's really the SEC. You don't have to play all of them. You say that all the time.
The trust factor is tough with any of these. I'm dying to see what these teams get matched up in the NCAA tournament. But, yeah, I have Arkansas.
All right, that's worth it.
At a good price. But obviously,
that's not bad.
Got to win the extra game.
Another one I don't think has like a ton of juice, but I could see somebody maybe stealing a bid again. The Pac-12. So UCLA at basically even money, plus 100. You got Zona at plus 150. USC at 7-1, and I'll play Oregon at 10-1. It has not been great out there in Eugene, but Dana Altman always seems to figure it out. They did have a lot of talent. They're on the bubble. They're still floating around. I think you got to look at Oregon at 10-1. And other than that, I liked Utah a lot. Like they were floating at 3 in the conference, fell to 7. They're at 50-1. Like I thought Utah was possibly getting in. It's tough. Like league has 2-3 bids. You can't really make a lot of sense of it. And you got 2 favorites accurately priced at 100-1 or plus 100 plus 150. Like, what do you really do with this tournament?
Yeah, SC is always my toughest team to gauge every year, no matter what it is with USC basketball. I can't ever get a read. When I'm confident in them, they can't do it. I think it was Mobley a couple years ago. I loved them against Gonzaga. Couldn't do it. And I thought that was their best team in this whole deal, going back to
I thought they were live. Yeah.
Elite 8 against Duke, they lost, I believe so, in Philly, way back.
I went and saw them, that USC team, live in Continental on Long Island, wherever the hell we saw them after the first. And Sam Clancy, Scalabrini was live. Yeah. My dad he got a lot of lunches bought for him on the floor of the stock exchange because he came back and goes, I'm telling you, they're going to cover in the Sweet 16 and again with Duke. So a lot of guys the next week, like, we're like, all right, thanks.
Only lunches?
Only lunches.
No brown bags of cash?
No brown bags of cash. No, no brown bags of cash.
Come on.
He was a lunch guy.
Good. No, yeah, I thought that was at Philly at Wells Fargo. Anyway, regardless.
Well, the second weekend was at Philly. I went and saw him the first one at Content. And that was back when you got 4 games, same side of the bracket in one site in 01.
Yep. You're right, the whole day. Yeah, I think the only price to like here is Oregon. I would like it a lot better if they were on the bottom of the bracket, but I don't know. I've been to this tournament. It's phenomenal. And the one guy that sticks out every single year, Dana Altman.
Yep, you have to go with him. You have to.
You know, if you beat UCLA, I think you win it. That's the way I look at it. And he knows he's telling his team. I mean, they were in this scenario a couple of years ago. Peyton Pritchard. Yep. I don't think they were getting in. They win it, go to the Sweet 16, lose to the national championship in Virginia. So Oregon's a team with just because of Altman. I mean, in game, incredible what he could do. Got some big dudes in there. Richardson's been there forever. I think he just set the record for games played in a Ducks uniform. So as a price, Oregon's the only way I would go. Where we got where's Colorado? Yeah, Colorado, Washington.
I didn't even write them down. I'll be honest.
Abysmal. Where's Wazoo's
up
at the top.
Hurley at 25-1. Arizona State maybe.
Did you see the end of that Arizona State USC game? I mean, that was those two teams. Like, it's only fitting that they are going to play Thursday night. Probably tip off at 1 a.m. Eastern. If Arizona State beats Oregon State, which they should. But SC Arizona State, that's the Pac-12 tournament, like if poster board. USC Arizona State 1 a.m. tip Thursday night. I'm sure I can find a place in New York City to watch that one. But I know you got curfew, so you won't be out.
No, we can make something happen. The basement. We'll take it. You could come see your picture down in the basement.
No. You could come out of the
yes,
basement.
Absolutely. Fair enough.
Where there's bright lights and
Fair enough.
shining.
I'll get you out of here on this. Gold medal. Bronze medal, silver medal, gold medal. It's Thursday night. You got wings in front of you. One of those waters that you're sipping now. Maybe something else. High noon. We got the new tequilas. It's Thursday night.
Pretty good.
Or
Those are good.
Thursday day. The guys in the cubes. You're dreaming up the Sweet 16 matchup of two teams right now, bracket unseen. Whether it's contrasting styles, two coaches going against each other, two unprovens trying to get to the Elite Eight, styles of play, two players, whatever it is. Of like, I'm so gassed up to watch this Sweet 16, bronze, silver, gold. Try to be as accurate as you can of like 2-3, 1-4, or mid-major sneak into a 1. You know what I mean? It's bracket unseen, but it is what it is. You're basically picking top teams of where it's going. I would love to see Kansas State play Bama in a fucking track meet. I'd love to see that.
That is a great question. I'm going to go Houston, TCU, Sweet 16, 1-4 or 1-5.
Okay. And then that would be the gold?
That would be the gold. Silver would be Do you think if Marquette wins out, they get a 2?
They should. I think they should. It's been the second.
I don't think they're gonna though.
I don't think they're gonna either. I don't think they look at what's going on. Like a team like Baylor. You know, what is Baylor on the 2 line? Is Baylor floating? Like if Marquette wins, it's been the second toughest conference, wire to wire.
I would say UConn, Arizona in a 2-3.
That's a good one.
And no. Kansas. To me, I don't know where. I feel like Purdue's dropping.
They are. I think Purdue might be flirting with They're not going to drop out of the 2s, but they could be flirting in a 3.
And give me Bama versus anybody in the Big 12.
Okay. Bama, Kansas, Bama. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Bama.
But your gold
Bama,
is
Baylor.
Yeah. Your gold is TCU, Houston.
Yes.
That's a
I
good
went
one.
to see Houston a couple weeks ago in North Carolina. I just love.
Yeah.
I mean, they come out no glitz glamour. Team comes out, they're doing their layups, and then Kelvin comes out in his golf shirt, sweatpants, and Jordans, and he's just like it's on.
Like an AAU coach, yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good, Rico.
Are you familiar with? I'll tell this story and then we'll go. Are you familiar with Rice High School? Some of the guys out of Rice, Kiki Clark, Steve Burt. They had like 3 guys. Felipe Lopez. They had 3. They had 3 guys on the same team go on to be top 5 in the country in scoring. They would crawl in your shorts from start to finish.
Yeah.
And the crazy story was Telfair was a junior in the state final. They went up to Glens Falls. Rice went up to Glens Falls without 2 kids who got suspended. I think one of them was Shigari Eleni as a sophomore or whatever it was. He was 7'4", went to Kentucky. They left 2 guys at home, Jason Wingate, Steve Burt. Went up there, and Telfair in fits, throwing the headband. He couldn't do a thing. These Rice guys were unbelievable. It's man-to-man, no help, figure it out. And it's a great style of basketball that I think is getting lost. And Houston, like, you got to respect them because that's what they do. So I respect it.
It is phenomenal to watch. And, I mean, obviously the story. I'm also fascinated by, like, the 1 seeds, who gets what's region. Like, I'm going to an Elite 8 game in Vegas. Like, I don't know if UCLA, I guess, maybe has the.
I heard there's a little bit of regional problems with the fact that they're all playing on Thursday or Friday or something like that. They have to. There's always hairy shit with that. We could go on.
I would think Houston wants Birmingham to start.
Yeah,
and they should get that. And Kansas, I think.
That's what I think it is. The first sites. That's what it is. The first sites. Yeah. They got to move guys with that. So, listen, hope to see you this week. I obviously love doing this. I'll do this forever. Conference Championship Week is unbelievable.
I have one guarantee for the bracket.
Okay.
We are going to get Duke, Maryland, 8-9. You
think Duke's going that far down? Barstool had it. We had them as a 7.5, and I wanted to play the under big time. I don't think. You think Duke's falling to an 8-9?
If they can put Duke, Maryland, 8-9, yeah.
Okay.
We will get a Duke, Maryland game. That is my tournament guarantee.
How red will your boss's head be?
Oh, God. I'm just glad we won't have to watch the game together.
All right, fair enough. So, Steve,
That's
always
good.
A pleasure. Thanks for making the time. Like I said, hope to see you this week. We'll make a sneak out and try and get some of these to the window. Thank you again.
All right. Tell the family who's in town. They'll understand.
All right, fair enough. Thanks, Steve.